Yes, I have that deer in the headlights look. This is take, I have no idea how many. So we're going to try again and see if we can get this right. I am trying to pack and get these videos made for you guys and get my act together, and I'm so excited about seeing my son graduate next week. So here we go. Your topic for next week is going to be, let's see, collecting data, mind mapping, and creating outlines. And we'll touch on a little bit of that in class this week so that you will have a preliminary idea of how to do it. And in my previous lecture, I already went over a little bit of what happens when you're doing this technique called mind mapping, and also a little bit about data collection. As I said in that one, be sure and use your research cards. They are your handy-dandy tool that will save you time and energy and a great deal of craziness, and make it easy to reorganize and order your information as you go along. Mind mapping is one of those things that is a technique that was developed for those of us who are messy outliners. For years, I thought I couldn't outline. It just buffaloed me. I wrote out the speech, and then I went back and made the outline. Well, what I didn't realize was that in this writing process, I was actually creating an outline. The outline was in the back of my head. It was hiding back there, and I was accessing it just fine. It just wasn't translating out here on paper. And the whole process of writing down a template for what I was going to write just, it killed my creativity. I couldn't handle it. And then one of my master's degree instructors, not doctorate, not there yet, don't know if I ever will be, one of my master's degree teachers introduced mind mapping, and she had this little handy-dandy program that was called Inspiration. She brought samples for all of us, and we had Inspiration, and then they had also this thing that they called Kidspiration, which was developed for younger students. It's a little bit pricey, and I'm not going to ask you to buy it, but I will make you aware that it's out there, and it is a mind mapping tool. And you can also find mind mapping tools on the internet that are free. This is an electronic method of doing what I was talking about last week, of writing your 3 main points, take your cards and sort them and place them on the different points, and then write it out by hand. Well, some of us who are messy outliners never get down to the business of actually determining our 3 main points until after we've written half the paper. Mind mapping cuts right through that, because you can sit there and you can type and you can write chunks and you can make connections in between it. Whereas if you're working with your 3x5 cards and you decided to use them as a mind mapping tool, here's how it would work. You would lay them out. Imagine the big blackboard up here that we're not seeing. You'd lay out your cards, tape them down, and then you could take pins and pieces of string and run from one spot over to the other and pin it down so that you're connecting the different points to each other. Well, that's a lot of work for a 3 to 5 minute speech, especially if you're having to make one every 2 or 3 weeks. And you only have 15 weeks to work with in the first place. So mind mapping is kind of a neat thing, and there are some free sample things that you can use as trials, and I'll stick those up as resources on your class board for this week. This is for the week of the 21st, by the way, that I'm making this for. It's a little confusing doing this video this early. So mind mapping is a great tool. It's a fun one to use. It's certainly not mandatory, but I'd recommend that you play around with it. And definitely don't forget to use your research cards and keep using them to sort with your main 3 points so that when you got your outline for your body made, you can write the conclusion and then hop back and write the introduction. Now that might not work for some of you, but I have found it to be a very effective way of doing things. Now, creating outlines. We've talked a little bit about it, but I have a very specific format that I want you to use, and you will find it in the resources section of Moodle. Also, you will be provided with a template for this week. I will hand it out to you on the 14th, and you will have it, and then I'll have extra copies in case you lose it or you need new ones. I have a template for outlining the way I want to see it. Yes, I used to not be this picky, but what I discovered is if you told students they could outline however they wanted to, or they could use bullet points or whatever, what you wind up with is a problem with evaluating what they have done. And I also found that they tended to get lost, and the ones that didn't follow my format had a harder time creating a cohesive speech. I wasn't the one that came up with this general outline idea. It took me a while to learn how to use it. It was introduced to me my sophomore year in high school. It's been around that long. And it works very simply. Roman numeral 1 is your introduction. Your book gives you a slightly different one, but it does mention this method. Roman numeral 1 is your introduction. Roman numeral 2 is your body. And Roman numeral 3 is the conclusion. Your 3 main points, which are in your body, are points capital letter A, capital letter B, and capital letter C. Underneath each of these points, you then drop over to Arabic numerals. That's your basic 1, 2, 3, as we are used to writing them out. If you need to divide those points some more, farther down, underneath each one of those Arabic numerals, you're going to go to lowercase a, b, c. So you could have a section in your outline that goes like this. You have Roman numeral 1. It's your introduction. Usually that is a block piece of text that you actually write out. I mean, it just makes life a little easier. Then Roman numeral 2, you have your general purpose topic. You know that sentence that the book talks about writing out? That is your overall central topic. That's where you put it. This is a speech to inform people about blank, blank, blank. And at the end of it, I want them to know blank. Are you going to read this sentence to your audience? Maybe. More likely not. This is your thinking sentence. This is your focus sentence that helps you know exactly where you're headed with this speech. Underneath this thinking sentence, or this central purpose, this one big grandiose statement, you're going to have your main point A. Main point A begins people moving in the direction that you want them to go in. It presents a heading for a piece of information. Underneath main point A, you may have subpoints 1, 2, and 3. But subpoint 1 needs some extra information. So under subpoint 1, you've got lowercase a and lowercase b. Then you're going to drop down to point number 2, and underneath it you're going to have another lowercase a and lowercase b, because those are your subpoints for that section. Then finally, you've got another point under capital letter A. You've got point 3, and you didn't really have any subpoints under that, so you just write it out and move on. Now you're ready for big topic number 2, which is your capital letter B. And you repeat the process down through each one of these so that you have your main points, A, B, and C, and underneath each of those main points you have your subdivisions. Actually, each one of those subdivisions is probably going to correspond to one or more of your note cards where you have information written down. Then you get down to, you do your body first. Remember, we talked about how it's just easier to do that second section with your main points before you try to write your introduction or your conclusion. Then you're going to go back, you're going to write your introduction, you're going to write your conclusion in whichever order works best for you. This is what you're going to be working on next week while you are in the classroom with Dave or whichever, or if you should happen to have another substitute. You're going to be collecting information, you're going to be writing your note cards, you're going to be creating outlines, and getting ready for the following week when we'll do a little quick go over it and hopefully present your informative speeches. So this is what we're going to be working with. This is going to be how we're doing it. And I hope that you have as great a time as I hope to have visiting my son while I'm out. And no, sorry guys, I'm not visiting the casinos. It's not my thing. But I do plan to see my son and my daughter-in-law, whom I've not seen since they were married 2 years ago. And I'm looking forward to it very much. So hopefully we'll all have a nice time between now and the 4th session. And we're going to turn out some great speeches.